foothills of the Gidwali Himalayan range, known for its scenic beauty, pleasant weather, and panoramic views of the surrounding mountains. A popular tourist destination often referred to as the Queen of Hills. One of its main attractions being its stunning natural beauty, the town is surrounded by lush green hills, cascading waterfalls, and dense woodlands, making it a perfect getaway for all kinds of people. But in the heart of this town, where time seems to stand still, lies a community burdened by exploitation, where the echoes of history intertwine with the daily lives of its inhabitants. Welcome to Mussoorie, a town where the past weighs heavily on the present. By the closure of 1822, Mussoorie had turned into a preferred location for many visitors. Even government offices like Office of Survey of India, which is based in Dehradun, had proposals to be shifted to Mussoorie for its excellent environment. The cool climate brought the memories of home to most of the British, turning the place into a favorite tourist destination that it remains to this day. After the establishment of the British rule in Mussoorie, a British man had built a very large home residence called Mullingar and allotted it as the house to a commandant. Needless to say, as the British started pouring into this hill town, they began setting up everything as per their needs and requirements. Even in the modern day, if you travel to Mussoorie, tracing the footprints of British exploitation that have cast a long shadow over its present, we discover the remnants of a bygone era where architecture, clothing, and means of employment bear witness to a subjugated past. You will notice that the entire hill landscape is dotted with many abandoned as well as well-preserved colonial buildings, which range from churches to offices and houses. But today we talk about something different that's related to this. Today we delve into the life of the largest demographical division in Mussoorie, as we take a look at the lifestyles of the working class locals, the blue collars, who struggle against the means of employment from a subjugated past that exploits their labor and suppresses their aspirations, and against forces that have integrated themselves into our systems and remain with us even after the British left us.
The present town of Mussoorie is inhabited by many different ethnic communities, their source of livelihood being tourism, hospitality, and working under the impression that our guest is our god, Atithi Devo Bhava. A notion instilled in our hearts by our ancestors and our cultural values, a value that was exploited and made use for countless years to use us as vassals and subject us to turmoil and anguish in every way possible, from enslavement to inhuman treatment and to teaching us plebeian means of employment. And despite the passage of time, these occupations persist in the facade of providence of adequate livelihood, under the mask of transportation and hospitality. We can see the toil of luggers, the literal backbone of our local workforce, and the manned rickshaw drivers who cruise around the streets with their cart-laden bicycles, all for minimum wages to provide for their families.
Majority of labor we see in Mussoorie is illegal. As we walk the streets, we witness the harsh reality of seeing bonded labor, child labor, etc. The reason behind this is lack of education, and the reason for that is a low income that hinders in their ability to get the children educated. The rates of minimum wages as fixed in few states is not even enough for 2 meals in a day. Leave aside the needs of health, education and shelter. Even more specifically, the issues and problems of wages are related to elements like need-based minimum wages and allowances for hazards of occupation and wage differentials for skills. A 2021 survey showed that the estimated average daily wage for Indian workers is under 400 rupees, which was true for most of the luggers, masons, and rickshaw drivers we met. All this, even though they toiled away all day. The reason for these jobs and their lack of economical and personal stability is due to the lack of development and employment opportunities.
In a town known for its schools, ironically, the youth in Mussoorie suffer from a higher incidence of unemployment as compared to the three plain districts of Haridwar, Dehradun, and Udham Singh Nagar. Gender-wise, nearly 30% of young male labor force in hill areas are either unemployed or taking up petty work, as seen in a report by Daily Pioneer. This is not a new story either. It's been this way for almost a century now, and we realized this as we talked to the lugger of our city who haven't seen any development or help in their jobs for decades, who have been working under dire circumstances for ages, with exploitative regimes still having them caught by their jugglers as they work for minimum wage, all here with no signs of growth or change. And trying to explore more of this, we took to a local lugger, coolie Veer Singh, age 63.
हम 50 साल से बोझा धो रहे हैं, रस्सी अभी तक हमारे तरह पीठ पे बोझा धोते हैं, 5-5, 6-6 अटैची लेके लोगों ने बस अड्डा छोड़ दिया है, सारा काम डिस्ट हो गया। पहले हमें गाड़ी किंगरे तो रोक देते थे और गाड़ी माल रोड के अंदर कोई टैक्सी फैक्ट्री नहीं आती थी, सही लाल डिब्बा सिस्टर बाजार सारे हम लोग बोझा धो के जाते थे। 5-5, 6-6 अटैची लगाई, हम चले। अब रोजगार तो कम ही है, रिक्शे चल गए, टैक्सी अंदर चली गई, कुल्ली का काम खत्म है, खींचने वाली अटैचियाँ हो गई हैं, खींचने वाली अटैचियाँ लोग सोचते हैं कि अब 100-150 रुपया लोग को कुल्ली को दें, हमारा चाय पानी का खर्चा निकल जाता है, इसलिए काम खत्म होते जा रहा है।
क्या सरकार ने आपकी मदद करी है?
नहीं, सरकार ने क्या मदद करनी है, नेपाल सरकार हमें मदद करती है, हमें 12,000 3 महीने का पेंशन देती है।
अच्छा,
नेपाल सरकार। अभी मैं नागता बना के आया हूँ, 5-6 महीने हो गए हैं, यहाँ का भी आखिरी कार्ड में जेब में, यहाँ सरकार कुछ नहीं करती। ये जो हमारे बाप दादा यहीं मरे हुए हैं ना, हमारा बाप फोन में था, फोन में सन 1962 में मर चुका था
जी।
इसलिए नेपाल सरकार हमें 12,000 रुपये महीना 3 महीने की देती है।
बाप रे।
अब वो काम करने नहीं देती वहाँ।
अच्छा,
7 साल के ऊपर नेपाल में कोई काम नहीं करेगा क्योंकि पेंशन आ रही है। अब यहाँ सरकार हमें क्या देगी, हम कुल्ली का बारी है, पीठ पे बोझा धोया, काम किया, चले गए।
क्या आपको शिक्षा के साधन मिले थे? क्या आपके बच्चों को शिक्षा के साधन मिले थे?
हमारी शादी नहीं की तो बच्चे कहाँ से होंगे?
आपने शादी नहीं करी?
नहीं।
आपकी जिंदगी काम में चली गई?
हमने शादी नहीं की, अब लड़के मिले, अब क्या करें, हम यहाँ बैठे रहे, गांव में तो गए नहीं, शादी तो दी दूसरे, अब सोच नहीं था उन्हें जब हम नहीं गए।
अंकल, आपके माता पिता
तो हमारे बचपन में मर गए थे, हम 8-9 साल के थे।
8-9 साल के थे।
इंडिया में मरे।
बहुत माफ़ी चाहता हूँ मैं।
हाँ, और मैं दादा छोटा दादा मरा,
जी।
मेरा दादा भी यहीं मरा, मेरा बाप भी यहीं मरा।
आपके पिताजी, आपके दादाजी वह क्या काम करा करते थे?
दादाजी ने यहाँ मजदूरी के अंदर में डंगर डूंगर पाल रखे थे यहीं।
जी।
हमारे पिताजी अब शर्म की बात है फौज में थे, लड़ाई में मरे, सन 1900 बांग्लादेश के।
जी।
अब हम बोलेंगे यार तो कुल्ली है, बाप कहता है।
नहीं नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है अंकल।
गलत है ना,
नहीं।
इसलिए हमें बोलना भी शर्म है।
The conclusion we could draw from all this is that these jobs are a trap that reels in people who are desperate, the homeless, the poor, or as we saw in Singh's case, being a teenage orphan with no family or guardian in newly independent India where life was tough as it is. But what caused this to stay? Why are we still having streets full of luggers all around us? Is it our inability to move past our trauma? Or is it the system? The system that shows no care for what happens to its people.
Although it has been more than 2 decades since the carvings of Uttarakhand to give thrust to hill-centric development, the issues of mountain dwellers have failed to find a place in the agendas of governments. Successive governments in Uttarakhand have favored the development of plain over hills. Consequently, the favoring of plains over hills in the distribution of resources and the neglect of the hill areas has resulted in the opportunities to sustain a good life in Mussoorie getting lowered to a daunting level. What Mussoorie has received in the name of development is promotion of a misconstrued form of tourism and a large-scale illegal urbanization through constant pointless construction and breaking roads to build them back up in a worse condition, in addition to being forced to languish in a state of deprivation in the absence of education, health, and road facilities. A destructive development is shoved down our throats.
In the shadow of towering mountains and amidst the echoes of exploitation lies a disheartening truth: the absence of governmental support. The far-reaching consequences of this neglect, particularly on the blue-collar workers who bear the weight of this burden, is that Mussoorie's exploitation has resulted in a highly displeased youth who, despite their best efforts, can't find any means of good or even rudimentary level of livelihood. It merits mention here that Mussoorie is confronting huge outmigration and the related situation of depopulation. According to Uttarakhand Human Development Report, every third rural household in Mussoorie and other hill districts reported outmigration. The lack of remunerative jobs, access to quality education, and health services is forcing many to outmigrate at a rising rate. The overworked and underpaying jobs prevailing with no developmental strategies to confront them doesn't help either. And as we can see and just heard, day by day the condition just gets worse. The employment opportunities have been thinned down even more, and now what remains for us to do is move to the plains and give up on Mussoorie. As in this forgotten town, the hands of the clock seem motionless. A sense of inertia pervades the air, as if the town itself has surrendered to the passage of time. Here the days blend into one another, indistinguishable, and the aspirations of its inhabitants drift aimlessly, trapped within the confines of their limited world. Within our walls, dreams go to sleep and ambitions fade away. Opportunities are scarce and aspirations of the youth are stifled by the weight of a town that struggles to evolve. Its people yearn for progress, but the box that surrounds them offers no avenues for growth. Only stagnation, 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 and then some more.
We saw a direct reflection of this in our ever existing local means of transport and employment, the manned cycle rickshaws. And to explore more of this, we went around talking to different rickshaw drivers, where we found Sampati Lal. Sampati is 56 and has been working this job for over 40 years, way back since the time rickshaws used to be hand pulled.
ये मैं जो यहाँ तो कम से कम 35-40 साल से हूँ, जबकि यहाँ हाथ रिक्शा था। पूरी ज़िंदगी से भी निकल, मैं यहाँ 16 साल का आया था और आज मैं बूढ़ा हो गया हूँ। मुझे 3 पीढ़ी हो गई।
3 पीढ़ी?
हाँ, पूरा 3 पीढ़ी हो चुका है। अब लोग तो कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं कि इसमें मजबूरी से बैठते हैं कि चलो यार अब क्या करें, लोगों का रोजी रोटी हो जाए। क्यों, बहुत सारे लोग हम ऐसे हैं कि जो हमारे शाम के लिए चूल्हा जलाने के लिए कोई हमारे पास आटे का साधन नहीं है, इसलिए हम इसको रिक्शा को खींच रहे हैं कि ये रिक्शा जो है मसूरी में यहाँ बाहर के पर्यटक आते हैं, ये खींचने वाला रिक्शा मुझे अच्छा नहीं लगा। मैं चाहता यहाँ के लिए अच्छा मॉडल का रिक्शा आ जाए। 27 साल।
अच्छा, 27 साल।
हाँ,
तब से कोई बदलाव नहीं आया?
कोई बदलाव नहीं हुआ, किसी की नज़र नहीं पड़ी इस रिक्शों में, बस जैसे है ऐसे कि जैसे।
आपके हालात बुरे से बुरे ही होते चले?
बहुत गलत गंभीर हालत है इसमें। वो तो अंग्रेजी को टाइम का रिक्शा, तो वो एक महापुरुष ऐसा आया IAS अफसर कि जिस बेचारे ने वो हाथ रिक्शा को बंद करवाया, पूरे शहर जानता है। एक रिक्शा में 5 आदमी जाते थे और माल लोड के अंदर गाड़ी नहीं आती थी, स्कूटी नहीं आती थी। अब तो पेड़ पौधे भी खत्म हो गए सारे। अब तो जो है माल लोड एकदम ऐसा हो गया कि कहीं पेड़ का तो नाम ही नहीं। अब जो रोड बन भी रहे तो कुछ पेड़ अगर रहेंगे भी तो टूट ही जाएंगे। नहीं तो एकेडमी वाला हर्ष मंदिर साहब यहाँ होते तो आज तक ये रिक्शा नहीं रहता। उसका कह रखा था कि मैं बहुत से जल्द इनको, और जब हमारा हाथ रिक्शा बंद हुआ था तो हमारे लोगों को समझाने के लिए बहुत बड़ा मुश्किल हुआ था कि अरे हम क्या खाएंगे, कहाँ जाएंगे। और जब ये रिक्शा आ गए यहाँ तो सब लोग खुश हो गए। हर्षनंदन जी जो है दिल्ली में, सोनामी के दिल्ली में रहते हैं, उनके बराबर तो आदमी आज तक कोई नहीं निकला और न निकलेगा। जो ये हाथ रिक्शा उन्होंने बंद करवाए अंग्रेजों की गुलामगिरी। क्यों, वो तो देख IAS अफसर थे, हमारे गांव तक पहुंचे वो लोग। IAS वालों के नज़र में पड़े हम लोग, और बाकी किसी के नज़र में हम लोग नहीं पड़े। मैंने भी यहाँ 2 बच्चों को पढ़ाया और बड़ा वाला बेटा मेरा लाल बहादुर शास्त्री एकेडमी में रहा। मेरे पास कोर्स करने के लिए पैसा नहीं निकला। उसने आज प्राइवेट स्कूल खोला हुआ है घनसाली में। छोटा बेटा मेरे आर्मी में है, मसूरी में पढ़ाया। और ये रिक्शे के लिए भी और यहाँ के लोगों के लिए भी मैं धन्यवाद चाहता हूँ कि जिनके पीछे हमने रोजी रोटी चलाई। पर थोड़ा ये रिक्शा बदला जाता तो बहुत अच्छा था। तो हम यहाँ के रह गए। थोड़ा पैसे का काम पैसे करता है, इसलिए हम लोग पीछे होते हैं। तो सरकार इसमें बहुत कम गौर कर। अब क्यों, हमारे पास प्रॉफिट भी नहीं है। अगर प्रॉफिट होती तो हम प्रॉफिट को कहाँ रखते हैं, तो फिर बच्चों को पढ़ाता। अब हम तो मेहनत मजदूरी करके जहाँ तक होगा वहीं तक देखेंगे, है जी। और भाई हम मसूरी का धन्यवाद चाहते हैं, और यहाँ के नागरिकों के लिए भी और यहाँ के जनता के लिए भी और सब टूरिस्ट के लिए।
What we could conclude from Sampati Lal's story was that the government gave up on us, and the few people with authority and power who wanted to help just couldn't. Life ceased to improve decades ago, and we've been stuck ever since. Even calling it a cycle feels like being generous, as cycles still can show change. So uniformly, but what Mussoorie saw was a broken and unhelpful government. One that only knows how to fool, not to feed, only knows how to fill their pockets without ever really trying to help the people. One that has blindsided the people who trust them. And yet, after all this, we saw Sampati smile. We saw him there, sitting with an unexplainable aura, as he shared with us his final thoughts.
मुझे तो मसूरी बहुत अच्छा लगा। यहाँ के बरोबर हमें कहीं नहीं मिला और न मिलेगा। यहाँ स्वर्ग धाम है, ये मसूरी नहीं है, स्वर्ग धाम है।
मसूरी एक स्वर्ग धाम है. Mussoorie is heaven's dome. In a town where all hope seems to have been lost, where nothing ever changes. People succumb to their base desires. People need to look up to something. And that is when they find religion. That fear of dying without achieving anything, of not being enough, doing enough, of dying hungry, and that fear of suffering pulls us to it. Though many would argue and say that religion is what makes our society sustainable, we can easily confute that by the simple fact that religion gives us a false sense of comfort in our inadequacy, a false sense of having meaning when in reality we are all going to perish, a false sense of having someone who protects you and loves you unconditionally. Religion fools you, as it has fooled the people of Mussoorie for countless years now.
With the temples and masjid, gurdwaras and churches and Buddhist shrines in our midst, it's no surprise that people in Mussoorie are really religious, having only had one entity to turn towards, God, as they could never really depend on anyone else. People of Mussoorie indulge in various practices and partake in diverse celebrations. But the question can be asked, is even God dependable to be looked towards? Is even God trying to help us? While the answer is yes for most of the people we'd find in Mussoorie, just a look how religion has helped us can go a long way in discerning if the answer is really that simple. While exploitative jobs, unemployment, and rising out migration in Mussoorie, the people, instead of paying attention to these problems, simply join their hands in front of their God and hope that things get better while actively not taking part in any kind of communal well-being program.
As we are now, the relentless march of progress in the world outside will bring changes that will shape the town's destiny. Industries will shift, economic downturns will ensue, and young minds will seek opportunities elsewhere. The allure of the bustling cities and the promise of better livelihoods will continue to drive away the town's youth, leaving behind a generation of the elderly and disillusioned. Neglect and abandonment will gradually envelope the town, sapping it of its once vibrant spirit. We will find ourselves a town with no people, a ghost town with empty rickshaws all around us. We will lose everything. Mussoorie needs help. From whom? It does not know. But as it is now, it is at its breaking point, and it is abandoned. This abandonment is not just by the people or by the government, but it is abandonment by God, the only being people trust here with utmost sincerity, which hasn't done anything but clouded their sense of judgment. Perhaps this is the lifestyle of the people of Mussoorie, clinging on to blind hope, disillusioned by the forces that exploit us, as we deem them to be the ones that will help us, blindsided by the rich, the government, and at last, even by the one being we thought would help us when no one would, by our God. Perhaps that is the box we have to get out of. Perhaps that would be the first step in improving. Giving up what we have been holding on to the tightest and asking for development. what we have overlooked for decades.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are filling up their glasses, no expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Children waiting for the day they feel good. Happy birthday, happy birthday. And to feel the way that every child should sit and listen, sit and listen. Went to school and I was very nervous. No one knew me, no one knew me. Hello teacher, tell me what's my lesson. Look right through me, look right through me. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. The people run in circles, it's a very